Um, the webinar is an opportunity for us to learn more about the work of our incredible, remarkable team in Bosnia, who have been working for many years to help heal the invisible wounds of the consequences of war, conflict, domestic violence, sexual and gender-based violence in their region. But it is my great honor to introduce and greet our today's guest speaker, Reem Al-Salem, who is United Nations Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women, Its Causes and Consequences, who has also worked for many years as an expert on gender issues, the rights of refugees and migrants, transitional justice and humanitarian response.
The incredible results that a project like this can do for victims of violence, which was set up for Colombian refugees actually that were in Ecuador. So this is actually the main reason I'm here, because I'm very appreciative and full of admiration for the work that you do, and to also express my solidarity to everyone involved, including the very courageous women that benefit from this project in Bosnia. Also, I felt it was important to engage on an event that involves communities of women in Bosnia. We now are very much focused on the Ukraine, and obviously it's a terrible war that is raging there, but we shouldn't forget that actually not too long ago, another brutal war took place in Europe, and that was also in the Balkans and affected Bosnia very much. And it was a place where unspeakable horrors were committed, and where women also suffered different types of violence. I'll close by saying also that when it comes to understanding violence against women, including sexual violence, I think we cannot understand that which happens during conflict as isolated from that which happens during peace. Actually, on the contrary, sexual violence during conflict actually normally is connected to and derives from the more general pattern of gender inequality and violence against women that happens before a war. And what happens during conflict is that women actually become more vulnerable during conflict to violence and to human rights violations in general, and also the ability for them to access support and protection mechanisms also become more and more remote and non-existent. So in order to be able to address the root causes of gender-based violence, we need a holistic approach. We need to think of it as a continuum of before, during, and after a conflict.
We worked with these issues of gender violence, and we are operating with a safe house. In this house, we not only provide basic services such as food and hygiene, but we also have professional services through individual and group therapy. We also have medical assistance to everyone who needs it. We also provide legal assistance as well as economic empowerment. Can you please describe something that has helped you in life the most? What has helped me in my life the most was the workshop on setting up boundaries in one's life.
There's an idea in trauma therapy that the bigger the trauma, the gentler the intervention needs to be. And in the Common Threads project in Bosnia, we are working with significant trauma. And the approach is step by step, breath by breath, stitch by stitch. So it's a healing process that can't be rushed. It's not a quick fix, fly-by-night intervention. It's a deep and slow intervention. I think really a strong aspect of the Bosnian project, which Cynthia and I both felt, was that our colleagues really brought the women to life for us. They spent so much time really getting to know them individually and helping us to get to know them at a distance. And these were a great example of working with the pillars of Common Threads, which Cynthia will look at a little bit in more depth. But some of these pillars are the paying attention to the close bonding, attachment, and relationship building, and living really deeply by the principle, the people heal people. And the body work in the group helped to engender states of deep relaxation, because the nervous systems of the women are often in a very hypervigilant type state. They're often operating out of threat. And the work of Common Threads, step by step, stitch by stitch, helps them to move back into a space where they can re-experience safety in their bodies. We had new experiences in Bosnia, even though we've worked in Common Threads now for quite a long time. And a request from our facilitators in Bosnia brought to our attention the need to respond to women who had both lived through the war and later experienced domestic violence, and other women now challenged with cancer. So it's important to remember that this is a both and, that all of these women are survivors of war trauma, but they're now facing other challenges further down the road of their lives. I think there's, really a great deal of work to be done. And I think the Care GBV project was really very, very instrumental in really hearing the experiences of facilitators who work on the front line with women who've suffered in this way. And we felt that some of the interventions we used with the facilitators, they were able to say that they were able to go on and use them with the women. So I think, that it's all just part of a mosaic in a sense, and that as we go on in Common Threads, we're getting a wider and deeper understanding of other parts that can be integrated into it.
So while the facilitators are being trained by us, they're also experiencing the program so that they can sort of internalize the work. We begin with a lot of exercises that help people in stabilization, bringing their nervous systems into a stable state. We do a lot of education around trauma and other topics that inform people about their experiences. And then we slowly work our way into the story cloth work with, understanding a bit about art therapy. And then we use the story cloth process as kind of a mirroring a therapeutic process. So for example, there's preparation to go before we get into the story cloth work. Much of that work sort of follows the tenets of a therapeutic process, like creating boundaries. We use prompts to help support the imagery of what women might want to display. They are given much choice in what they do, using picking materials. And then there's rituals that sort of bring things to a close and honor the process that they've been through. In the actual Common Threads groups, they will have 2, possibly 3 different phases. The first phase is what I've just described, and then phase 2 will deepen the work, give more opportunity for the group to bond, to work through feelings of grief or shame or blame, and then to reclaim their voice and their sense of agency. And then ideally, if the group chooses to continue, they'll do their own self-directed group, and which then really sustains the Common Thread project in each country. I would just say a parallel project that we've been running over the past year has been this Care GBV project, which is focused on care for the carers, as Catherine mentioned, with giving support to frontline workers to keep them balanced and sustained so that they can continue to do the work that they love. And I think it's really shown us just how much support those in the helping professions need and can benefit from, so that they can sort of feel at the top of their game when they're doing their work. And it's such important work that they do.